My name is Rex Friend, R-E-X-F-R-I-E-N-D. I'm with the Quaker, which is the Religious Society of Friends, and I'm representing Oklahoma Conference of Churches here today. This time I want to focus on what would be the thought process or the reasoning to not stay the execution, to not grant clemency. And it seemed like the only thing that really is out there is a fear of Garry Allen. And Garry Allen is severely mentally ill. It's understandable that we wouldn't want him living in our neighborhood if he might be dangerous again. The reality is we're not talking about that. We're talking about Garry Allen not being executed, but being in an institution where he can no longer do harm, probably still maximum security from what I understand. As human beings and as Oklahomans, we're hesitant to use lethal force in a situation where it's not necessary. It could be that there is a time when it might have been necessary for someone to use lethal force against Garry Allen. He was shot at the time of the crime by law enforcement. But at this time, where he's incarcerated and will always be, there's no longer a necessary use of lethal force, regardless of how dangerous he would be if he lived in our neighborhoods. There are other options, and even the most conservative of the religious denominations understand that if there's other options to the use of executions regarding capital murderers, then those options change the calculus of what we do when there has been a capital murder. We don't have to do executions for the purpose of public safety. The other possibility of why there's not been a grant of clemency, why there's not been a stay of this execution, is the punishment motive. And Kenny Fikes talked about that regarding the punishment motive, we're no longer able to use the death penalty against people who have a lesser level of culpability. That's the people that did capital murder, but they were either developmentally disabled, what's been referred to as mentally retarded, or juveniles at the time of doing the capital murder. The reasoning behind those cases is those people don't have the full capacity to develop the most evil of motives and to carry out those motives. They're limited, they're less mature, they're less able to calculate like someone that has full capacity. That applies to the severe mentally ill like Garry Allen. And based on that, the U.S. Supreme Court, if it had this case, would surely prohibit this execution. Oklahoma's death system is not evolving at the level of the standard of decency throughout the United States. We were slow to end executions of the severely mentally retarded. We killed Wanda Jean Allen in 2001. We were slow to end the execution. Oklahoma killed the last juvenile offender just a few years ago. We don't need to repeat that and be the last one to kill someone that is this severely mentally ill. Oklahoma, we can do better. We can realize that there's not a necessary justification, and then we can contact the governor and say, Governor, we know it's not about fear. We believe it may well then be only about punishment, and punishment is disproportional. It's reserved for the most culpable, and Garry Allen is not one of the most culpable. Let the governor know your concerns.